Hi, everyone. I'm Claudia Sarek,
And I'm Spencer Michael.
and this is So You Want to Run a Restaurant, powered by Back of House, where we let you have a seat at the table to talk about trending topics in the restaurant industry. So today, we've got West Virginia's first James Beard award-winning chef on the show with us. I mean, what a way to kick off the relaunch of this show. Am I right, Spencer?
Yeah, very, very much so. Very exciting. Chef Paul is the executive chef behind 1010 Bridge, a beautiful neighborhood restaurant in Charleston, West Virginia. And if you haven't been to his place, if you haven't seen what he's building down there, I've got a new restaurant coming out now. You're going to want to check it all out after this episode. I'm excited to talk to Chef Paul and get to know his story because it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Welcome to the show, Chef.
Thanks for having me. This is great. What an honor.
So, one thing that I noticed when learning more about you was that you have such a powerful story rooted in place, heritage, and really culinary excellence. And I read this on your bio. Appalachia has always been about food, music, and stories. This one is mine. So take us back to where your story first begins. What were those early food memories like in your family?
I think first of all, thanks for having me. This
Yeah.
is awesome. And thanks for telling our story. My story began with my grandfather. So just like a lot of West Virginians and especially a lot of Italian Appalachians, my great grandfather came over from Italy. So his name was Pescia, which translates to fish. So, which is great. So the story started there. My grandfather and, they both worked in the coal mine industry. So, but on the weekends, my grandfather worked at the local inn, the Glen Ferris Inn, Valley Bridge, West Virginia, and he did Italian nights. So from basically the time that I could stand high enough to stand on the milk crate and stir the Sunday gravy, I was doing that while he could pour himself another coffee. Which, oddly enough, looked and smelled a lot either like wine or like Jack Daniels. But I think that's where it started. And then every Sunday we would gather at my great grandfather's house. And it was not a dull roar, but a loud roar of family, of the smell of fresh bread, the smell of meat sauce, and just that classic Italian story of getting together every week, talking about our week, maybe a little argument, a lot of wine. It didn't depend, it didn't matter how old you were.
Right.
So that's where my story came. We moved to Charleston. I went to a small Catholic school, because they had special programs. Like I'm pretty dyslexic. And so I really gravitate more toward, a hands-on approach. That's how I learn. That's how I teach. And of course, being Italian, I do things with my hands. And so it made a lot of sense to just go into the hospitality industry. And that's kind of what we talk about now at 1010, at the Pitch Sports Bar, at Polly's Fine Italian, is we are inviting you into our home, our Appalachian home. You come in, we greet you warmly. Come in, we talk about where you came from, why you traveled here. And then, when you leave, we absolutely invite you back. And I think West Virginia has this innate sense of hospitality. I think it gets a bad rep a little bit, but we are rewriting the play, rewriting the script. And now when you come to West Virginia, I think you leave with like, wow, that was West Virginia. We have a fine dining experience without the pretentiousness. We have all the things that every other city has, but we are just kind of rooted in Appalachia. And I think we're no longer America's best kept secret.
That's awesome. That's no kidding. Yeah, that I have to go and check it out. Ever since we talked the first time, Chef Paul, I have to go and see your place. I have to go see your food. I got to go try this. So, I mean, I love that story. I love everything about it. It's very Italian. It's very a celebration of with no pretentiousness. French food can get very, as it's, very refined, but it can also get very pretentious at times, where Italian food is, it's always about the ingredients and about the experience. So I love that. So you took that experience of being with your family, but you've also trained some of the best culinary institutions and worked in some incredible kitchens across the country in different areas. So are you always kind of balancing those two? You want this refined food of your training, but you also want to have your grandfather's sauce on the menu, and make sure that you're going to balance those. How do you do that?
So that's a great question. Yeah, I traveled and learned and from the best. And that's what I needed to do. Growing up here, I had the hospitality. I have the family. We have the great biodiverse growing area that is Appalachia. I went to CIA in Hyde Park, but back in 99, 2000, being a chef wasn't the rock star thing that it is now. So my parents were like, yeah, when this thing that you're doing for the moment subsides, you need something to fall back on. So I
Sure.
graduated college, then I went to CIA Hyde Park and just immersed myself in food and the culture and just really had a great time and put as much into my education as I possibly could and learned any chef that had something going on, I was like volunteering for it. And then when I graduated, I decided to take it a step further and I went out and did pastry at our CE campus at Greystone in Napa Valley. So I studied wine and pastry there. I wanted to make myself more marketable.
Hmm.
I wanted to make sure that I learned about not only the savory side, but the sweet side. And that way, if I ever needed a job, I could go either way. And then now that I own my own restaurant, I can teach both the savory and the sweet. And so I did my externship at the Ritz Naples under probably with the best brigade that I've ever been a part of. I mean, it's McFadden, CMC, Frederick Monty, certified master pastry chef. I mean, Mike Voltaggio and I came in there together. He was banquet sous, and I was just like the lackey. And again, I made little business cards on a piece of paper and handed them out to all the chefs and said, like, guys, I'm 5 minutes away. I'll work whenever, wherever, and
Wow.
just like did it and God learned so much. And then went after pastry school, ended up fortunate enough to graduate first in my class and was recruited to go to the Biltmore because the chef at the Biltmore, the executive sous chef, I had worked under at the Ritz Naples. So I was a pastry chef at the end. I was the only chef that could do both. So I went in at 5 a.m. I did all of the pastry prep, went and at that time of my life, went and had a couple drinks at the local watering hole there in downtown Asheville, and then went right back and worked the hotline at night. So I would work the saute station, the grill station, the poissonnier, and really just worked my off to get to the next level, and then went to the probably one of the nicer clubs and one of the things that I've never been a part of, which is like this incredible wealth of this country club in Vero Beach, Florida called Windsor. And it was a 150 member golf cart community, live-in community that these members had million, two, three, four, $5 million homes, and we're there 2 or 3 months out of the year. We had an unlimited budget. We could order from Chef's Garden to, Maison de Truffle in France. And these
Wow.
niggas would jump in their G5 and head up to New York and eat at, whatever steakhouse and come back and be like, well, this isn't like, Peter Luger's. And I'm like, well, no, I'm not Peter Luger, but I had a blast. Well, worked there for 3 years.
That must be tough to leave. Sorry to interrupt. But that must be tough to leave when you've got that like an unlimited budget and you can just order
It
from wherever you want, like you wherever. Yeah.
absolutely was tough to leave. I realized is I wasn't learning. The
Mm.
chefs that I were under were great guys, but I think I think what a lot of chefs do is like it doubled my salary from the Biltmore there. And I was like, I was doing it for the wrong reasons. I was doing it for the money. And it was a great resume builder, but I think I set myself back a couple of years in my learning. And so I came home and I worked at a small university. So I was executive chef at the University of Charleston. And, when you're executive chef, you do a mystery basket. So they give you ingredients and they say, all right, do a 4-course meal. You have 2 hours. You have the use of our pantries. Here's a side of salmon and a turkey and whatever. And by the way, you have a $1.89 plate cost. And so I'm like, unlimited, hey, whatever you want to do to like, now I've got to use my skill not only as a chef, doing the offcuts and other, not the rib strip and tender, but the eye of round and the terrace major and these cuts, and really doing it to where it was really taught me how to be fiscally responsible. So I ran the university's food service for 3 years and then got out of that and went into corporate. So I was a corporate chef for a meat and seafood company called Bud's Food Service. And so I kind of did what chefs do in reverse. I went from being a chef to a sales rep. I went from being a sales rep to jumping right back in it. Is what I was talking about.
But it sounds like your career has this theme of you're trying to honor tradition while elevating it and working in all of these different kinds of establishments. So I guess for those that don't know, and like myself, how would you best describe Appalachian cuisine? And how would you best describe Appalachian food? And how did you get all of that and take all of that fine dining and really bring it back into your roots? Because then I want to talk about 1010 Bridge as well.
Yeah. So Appalachian cuisine is using what you have and trying to make the most out of it while it's in season, and then utilizing your skill as I think nowadays, with like the Rene Redzepis of the world, fermentation, curing, hyper local are the things to do. And in Appalachia, that was what we've done for decades, for generations, is we would use what we had at our fingertips: corn, beans, ramps, these wild things that are growing right here. And then, in order for us to survive, we hunted, we gathered, whatever is right here. And then we made sure that we had enough for the entire year. So we would can and preserve and cure and really utilize the skill that we utilize as chefs to make sure that we could survive. And I think that's Appalachia is now it's, obviously, we have refrigeration and all the things, but
Sure.
I think it's celebrating what we have as probably the best melting pot in the country. There were so many cultures that settled here because of the coal mines, salt industry at one time, because of the oil and gas industry, because of it was work and it was hard work. And if you think about what the topography's like, man, you had to be a badass to live here, right? Because it's
Yeah.
hills and valleys and, four seasons and rain and snow and sleet and all the things. And so that's, I think, where generationally my work ethic really came into play. And it's also not being pretentious. It's countryside. It's using the offcuts. It's, using these everything and not wasting and really being resourceful. And that's what we do at all of our restaurants is, I think, you call it a couple different things as a chef, or the JBF, the foundation calls it sustainable, and as a restaurateur and as a person that employs over 200 people, I call it profitable. uh you know
That's a great line. I like that. Yeah.
you
You've
have
been
to be.
sustainable since the beginning. Yeah. You're not
Exactly.
yeah. You've
You
just
you
sort
were
of,
scrapping and fighting, and
no kidding.
some days you're a janitor, some days you're a plumber, some days, most days you're cooking. And I think again, it all goes back to Appalachia. It all goes back to my roots. It all goes back to learning the different things from my grandmother, grandfather. And it was out of necessity. And now it's out of necessity as a restaurateur. Like, right now in my kitchen, my top oven double stack is down, and I'm utilizing we have a party for 200 that's going out, and I'm taking a toaster oven and an air fryer.
Wow. You do what you got to do.
Yeah, you're
That's
getting
it.
scrappy.
That's
There,
it. That's
there
it.
must be
Appalachia
something.
is scrappy.
The food must be defined in a way, like obviously by the topography, like you said, because I think of West Virginia, I don't think of vast cornfields. It's obviously it is the most mountainous state of the
Absolutely.
union, and so you're foraging, you're fishing, you're
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
and then the people there, like it must be defined by the people as well, because you're cooking for hardworking people, and it has to be delicious. It can't be pretentious. So you're at 1010 bridge, but I'd love to hear about that, because how do you get that? Like, okay, I need to feed a coal miner who's
Yep.
worked so hard this week,
Yeah.
but I need to put my spin on it as a chef. It needs to be refined in some way. So are you constantly toying with that? Are you constantly, I mean, as a chef, I'm sure you always are, but is that always in the back of your mind? Like, I need to feed my grandfather and his friends, like back in the day.
100% hit the nail on the head. I could be as chefy as I can, and I could do, foie gras, offal, dueling 7 ways and not sell it,
Yeah.
right? And now I can do that and sell it because I've earned their trust. And I think that's what we all try to do in whatever industry we're in, is earn our client, our guest, our friends trust. But you're right. Like, we have fried chicken on the menu. We have gumbo. We have our signature dish. Our 1010 cut is a slow roasted terrace major with a lobster mac and cheese, fried Brussels sprouts with candied onions, and a foie gras truffle compound butter. Now,
I will eat all of
people,
that. I'll
I was
have.
gonna
yeah,
say,
right?
I'm like,
Who doesn't
chef's
love that?
kiss.
Yeah,
Chef's kiss, baby. That sounds delicious.
but it's mac and cheese
Yeah.
and steak and vegetables. So it doesn't scare people away like our fried chicken. We brine it, we sous vide it, we bread it, and then we serve it with white cheddar cavatappi, mac and cheese, and braised collard greens, and then we do a pan jus, which is hot sauce. So it's done in a different way. It's refined, it's elegant, it's plated differently. I always kind of used to make fun of one of my best friends, Jeff Qualls, and I used to go to these big time events, and we would do, West Virginia hot dogs elevated, which is like a hot dog with chili and slaw. And people are like, what the hell? You put slaw on your hot dog?
Be careful because you're talking to a Chicagoan right now. So,
Yeah, right. Would you
you know,
put tomatoes and peppers? What the heck? Like, can I get a chocolate shake with that? It's circle dog? Absolutely. But like, it's what I always made fun of was like tweezer chefs, right? They're like
Yeah.
cleansing things. And now I'm a tweezer chef, but like Appalachian style. So my tweezers are more my fingers. Yes, I do use tweezers. I don't keep them in my chef coat because like my hypocrisy only goes so far. But like, it's about comfort. It's about feeding the coal miner and then feeding the executive. And then it's also about education. Like, I've had so many people from Southern West Virginia come up for their anniversary, and they're like, man, I didn't know that I'd like it here. And I go out and I sit down with them and I just talk. And by the time they leave, they want to come back, and they thought that they couldn't eat here and they couldn't afford it, and it wasn't them, but it is, and it is for everybody. One of the best stories that I heard, and it probably will get me a little choked up, is after we won. And I say we, I won Best Chef Southeast, but like, it was all of us.
hmm
We talk about the experience, we talk about the hospitality, we talk about everything from the greeting at the door, the goodbye, because those are the first impression and the last impression. We talk about the food, we talk about the service, we talk about the cocktails, and then we talk about the ambiance and the music. And one of the judges at the after party after we won came up to me, and she was an older African American lady. And she said, I just wanted to I just wanted to tell you that, like, I came into 1010 and I looked around, and there wasn't anybody in there that looked like me. And it didn't seem like that this was going to be my place. And I sat at the bar, and instantly your staff like greeted me at the door, and your bartender like explained the menu in such a way with such elegance, and he spoke about you like you were his father. And like when I left, the food was great. The experience was unbelievable. And when I left, it was the best dining experience that I had in this year.
Oh,
And
that's
Wow.
incredible.
I was like, that's what 1010's about. That's what Polly's
Awesome.
is about. That's what the pitch is about. It's about personal service.
Yeah.
It's about talking. It's about name recognition. It's about like welcome back and knowing what they had the last time or welcome in. Where are you from? Growing up here in Charleston, what I always heard when I went to school at Virginia Tech or when I went to school in Hyde Park or Napa, and I was like, I'm from West Virginia. The first thing they would say is like, "Oh, I got friends in Richmond," and I'm like, "Yeah, I got friends in Nebraska." That's about how stupid that sounds,
No kidding.
because
Yeah.
it's a whole different state.
Wow.
But also, they would say, "I've driven through Charleston. You have a beautiful capital." But they didn't stop in Charleston, and
Right.
now they're stopping. Now we're 20 to 25% out of town guests.
Well, you're shaping this entire ecosystem
Yeah.
though. It is from what it's not just the community. I mean, it is the community. The community's
Yeah.
playing a huge role in it,
Yeah.
but you are truly shaping the entire ecosystem, it sounds like, with this restaurant and the way you're thinking about it and how holistically you're thinking about everything.
Yeah, and we support other restaurants and other chefs, and we teach our chefs here. I educate them. We have sent 7 of our team through culinary school. We pay for it. I believe in education. It's not very often that we get to be the smartest people in the room, but in our living room, we have to be the smartest people in that room. We have to know the techniques, we have to know the allergens, we have to know the story. We have to know Grandpa Joe, the story behind how I got here. And I think Anthony Bourdain, when he came here, he said a couple things that really resonated with me. West Virginia has always been exploited for our resources. The out of town, whatever it was, guest or whatever came in and they took, whether it was our coal, our oil and gas, our natural beauty, they took something. And now I think what they're taking is a memory. And what they're taking is a positive experience. And what they're taking is a change of mind. They're coming in with an expectation and a notion that they know what West Virginia is. We're all a bunch of dumb hillbillies and a dumb rednecks that like don't know what's up. And they come here and they're like, oh my God, this restaurant could be in Soho. And I'm like, I know,
That's
but
awesome.
it's here because I want it to be here.
I
Yeah.
And I think it's that level of passion that you're speaking with right now. That it's no wonder you won the James Beard Award. And first, huge congratulations on that, and being the Virginia to win the James Beard Award. So you're a semifinalist, you're a nominee, and then you win. So I want to hear about you go to Chicago, and really you have the whole region on your back, essentially, because there's a watch party at home and at the farmer's market, and then there's a crowd greeting you at the airport. Like these, you hear somebody, oh, I have a restaurant in Soho, I won the James Beard, I could put the sticker on the window or whatever it might be. It was so much more for you. So what's going through your head? You hear your name called, everyone's back home, and just walk us through that whole moment.
I didn't prepare anything to say. You know, I had been there the year before. We had made it to the finals and came in second to Terry Covell at Deer of the Dove, which got a bib gourmand and a star the next year. And I'm like, he deserved it. Absolutely. So I think the first year it was a lot of imposter syndrome. I think coming from West Virginia, you're like, am I the token, right? Am I the
Mm,
token geographic inclusion, right? So you're like, am I good enough to be here? I think so. And then the next year, making the finals again, everything changed. And I took a different approach. I think the first year I strangled it and I tried to do everything myself. And I tried to I touch every dish and touch every table and it was still natural, but I didn't let my team be my team, right?
mm.
Mm.
We do so much training and we do so much education, and I didn't allow them to be them. And that's part of our steps of service are you have the steps and then you use your personality to make it yours.
Mhm.
And so when we made it to the finals the next year, I said, I brought the whole team together. And I said, we did it again. And this year I'm gonna take a different approach and I'm gonna let you do you. And we're gonna do this as a team and we're gonna do it together as a family. And like, but I want to win it. And I think the year before I said all the things you gotta say, right? Like, oh, it's an honor to be here. And like I'm just honored to be in the room and all these things. And this year I was like, I want to win this because we deserve it and West Virginia deserves it.
Awesome.
And our team, each individual came up and said, we needed to hear that you had our backs. We needed to hear that you wanted to win it because we want to win it for you. And part of what we do here is support our community. I talk about the rising tide and I talk about West Virginia as a rising tide. I wanted to lift West Virginia up as much as I could. I want to represent West Virginia, my family, my wife, my teams, not only 1010, but the pitch and Paulie's and soon to be Bad Happy Burrito. And wanted to, I did think, I did think I let people down the first year.
Really?
I,
Mm.
yeah,
Why?
Uh,
because you have a whole state on your back, you know,
Yeah.
people are like, you're the hope,
Yeah.
right? You're giving us hope. And West Virginia needs more to cheer for.
Mhm.
And I came home and I got off the plane from Chicago the first year and I came straight to work. And my prep cook was out back smoking a cigarette. And that's another conversation. But he
I've never
said,
seen that in a restaurant before. The cook
never,
out back
never,
smoking a cigarette.
right?
That's never.
Smoking cigarettes when they should be doing prep, right? That never happens. But he said, I pulled up out back and I parked my car and I got out and he said, congratulations. And he said, I told him you'd come straight from the airport. And like, that's what it is about.
Mhm.
Like, I'm not the best cook in 7 states. I know that for a fact. My story of overcoming addiction, my story for overcoming, geographic exclusion, my story about perseverance. I outworked everybody. I
Yeah.
know that for a fact.
Yeah.
Get here at 6. I work 7 days a week. I probably gave up one addiction for another, and that's, alcohol and drugs to work. But it equates to I make a difference in people's lives. And that's why I do this. And I also know that I'm inspiring people and I'm changing people's lives. Like we just opened Paulie's and my one of our servers came to me and she said, like in tears, said, that's the biggest paycheck I've ever had. And like
Wow.
literally like, I just I'm making a difference in people's lives and it's raw and that's me. I'm raw and full throttle and emotional. We're a big employer now. We employ 150 to 200 people. We offer a 401k at our restaurants. Like
Well, good for you
I'm
guys. That's
doing
awesome.
things that weren't done for me. We're safe, sober, California sober, working environment. I can only go so far,
Right,
right?
right, right.
Exactly.
Like, yeah, if you're doing whatevs, just don't tell me. Get your head straight and come back in 2 minutes,
But
right?
That's
it's
incredible.
but it sounds like you're not only mentoring, but you're leading by your own example here, which I think that's more powerful that you're walking the walk and you're talking the talk and you're going to teach people along the way. So, I guess I guess leading into that then, what is it that you want the next generation of chefs to understand about building something meaningful in this industry and for the industry folks? And then what should people be paying attention to for the future of Appalachian cuisine in general?
Yeah. I think chefs take themselves too seriously. I I I take what I do and my craft seriously, but not myself. I could be really serious right now. First James Beard winner for West Virginia, very semi-successful restaurateur. Um, I think that everyone just needs to like relax a little bit and just create a good experience for not only your team, your community, and your guest, but also think about yourself. Like, you need a little work-life balance. I don't really have one, but that's my choice. I think as an employer, I demand that they do take a work-life balance. When you work for Chef Paul Hospitality Group, people treat you differently on the street here. If you have the beat or the Polly's logo or the pitch logo or the little, smiling devil for bad happy, you you get respect. And I give respect to our team, to our cooks, to West Virginia. I spoke at the South Carolina Hospitality and Tourism Conference. Like, what the hell? Like a little old guy from a little old town and a little old restaurant of 48 seats in West Virginia is speaking, to literally a hospitality state about my story, about how to do it right, about all these things.
I think
And like,
everybody could learn from this, though. I think you say a little old guy, but a very powerful story and a extremely well spoken. What I see is you're on this leading edge of making this refined food more approachable for everybody. It doesn't have to be Manhattan and Napa and Miami where you're going to go get great food. It can be in Appalachian. It can be in other states that you wouldn't find. You may think you're not going to find refined, delicious food done right with passion. I'm excited by your story. I definitely need to make the trek to Charleston to go see. I'm very far
Yes.
away. I'm
please
in the
do.
Pacific
Yeah.
Northwest, so it's a bit of a trek, but I will do my best.
Yeah, I could come see you too, right?
Yeah.
I'd love to, come out and do that. I love what I do. It's cliche, but like my country road was always leading me home. I needed to get out and learn. I needed to experience
Yeah.
because cooking is about experiences. And if I write a cookbook, it would be about my experience and the things along the way that shaped me, good, bad, or otherwise. I see other restaurants and their food looking like ours. I see
Nice.
other menus looking like ours. I get phone calls all the time. I'm like, yeah, I'll give you the recipes. I don't care. I'll give you all of it. I'll
Nice.
I'll come in and give you the SOPs. I'll train your staff. I'll train your cooks.
Yeah.
Send them here to stage because I want you to be better. I want West Virginia to be better. I want all of us to be better. And like, that's the great thing about this business is it doesn't matter if you're in the Pacific Northwest or DC or Appalachia or, wherever. It's a small community. And Nina Compton and I graduated from culinary school together, and she is crushing it in New York, New Orleans. And I got to hang out with her at the award ceremony, and it was such an honor to give her a hug and to see what she's doing and follow her. Right? Like, I'm not Renee Redzepi or Ferran Adria or Wiley Dufresne. Right? I'm not recreating a whole genre of cuisine, right?
Hmm.
What I'm doing is just putting my own spoke in our little wagon wheel in West Virginia, and I'm trying to emulate those that came before me. I'm trying to represent us the best that I can. I make mistakes every day. Like, I'm probably not the best boss some days. I probably, fly off the handle every once in a while, but and that just shows the passion
Another
that
thing
you
that never
have in your
happens in their
craft.
kitchen at all. That's why they need the cigarettes out back, Paul. That's awesome. This has been awesome. Thank you so much. I'm blown away by your story, and I'm very happy you joined us today. This has been great.
I can't wait to see what else you do in West Virginia and how you continue shaping the culinary scene and how you're affecting your community and all of the really cool things that I'm sure you still have up your sleeve. And appreciate you being on with us today.
Well, it was a true, true honor. And what you're doing and getting that our story out there is as important. So thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
It's an honor to be here.
Thank you.